Another case, Charlie thought, as no one ever came to his home without invitation. No one. As much as he wanted to go on vacation, he couldn't actually refuse a case, could he? This was precisely the reason he moved north to New Hampshire from Boston, to flee the rat race and politics of law enforcement. Sure, he couldn't just cease what he'd been doing with conviction and pride for over 15 years, the last few in Portsmouth, but his grand plan was a sound one. Work fewer and fewer cases for a couple of years, sock away money, and then terminate his Mickey Spillane shtick once and for all. No more cases. Nada. Never. End of story. Yes, of course, he couldn't take this case. He was just going to tell this person that he was about to leave the country today, and nothing was going to stop him. He held out his right hand, smiling. "How can I help you this fine morning?" "I need you," she said. "I need you to help find my father's killer. It's been 2 years." Charlie's mind swirled. A much-needed getaway was all he'd thought about this past year. Was he ready to postpone this opportunity? An opportunity he was fully mentally prepared to take for someone he'd just met? Charlie's smile disappeared. It was a good thing he'd purchased refundable coach round-trip tickets. MedTech was responsible for bringing some of the most innovative medical devices to market, revolutionizing numerous medical and surgical procedures, including cardiothoracic surgery, neurosurgical therapies, and most recently, spinal interventions. At the time of his death, Lyle Willems was in the midst of marketing a spinal device that could effectively eradicate chronic low back pain in patients, alleviating the need for unnecessary surgeries. Obituaries from coast to coast lauded Willems' visionary abilities and lamented his untimely death as a cruel and unexpected detour from the visionary prowess many in the industry bestowed upon him. Company employees lionized him. Politicians and policymakers championed him, and physician lobby groups worshipped him, all of which made his murder completely improbable. Who would want him dead? Charlie had to clear his harried mind, close his bloodshot eyes, and concentrate on the clues. He needed to think about the people, the circumstances, the implications about everything he'd uncovered this far. What was the missing issue? Who, out of everyone he'd investigated, had the best reason to off Lyle Willems? His investigative sense told him that this wasn't some random killing. There had to be a way to connect the dots between all the people he'd interviewed and the places he'd seen during the investigation. He considered everything in this case, every last thing, everything he knew, everyone he talked to, every place he'd been. He thought about those who personally knew Lyle Willems. He thought about all the tangents he'd encountered to build a case for the other murder that wasn't the primary focus of the murder he was hired to solve. He thought about all of the events in his investigation that led to where he found himself at this very moment, about the implications for all parties involved if his hunch turned out to be correct. He took a couple of deep breaths, in and out. Slowly. Later that evening, he tried hard to focus. Doing so was more important now than ever. This is what it felt like to have all the pieces of the puzzle fall into place. To get the last puzzle piece to fit, he had to trust himself and his instincts. That was key. Trusting himself. He didn't want to think about the negatives, the what-ifs. He had to direct his energies to putting his plan into action.